for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's interventional cardiologist, founder of Lila Health, bringing science to the supplement space. No other than Dr. Bilal Ahmed.
Happy to be here.
Welcome once again, Dr. Bilal, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I
Yeah, of course. Very succinct and aptly put introduction. I'm an interventional and structural cardiologist. That means I open up arteries during heart attacks and I replace heart valves. I'm also an entrepreneur and founder or co-founder and CSO or Chief Scientific Officer of Lila Health, where we ask that you demand more of supplements. It's an evidence-based solution to cardiovascular risk factors and gut health through prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics all in one. Mango lassi flavored stick pack.
Yes, and uh, can your sister to be my guest on Food 101?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Please,
I
please,
can
it's
send you her contact information in the chat
my
later.
my pleasure because she is a culinary expert, right?
Great memory. Yes, she went to the Culinary Institute in New York City and, brings all the flavor and the
Awesome.
color to the product.
I have a new segment on Food 101, which is featuring my feature author, not feature in on Book 101 Review. I do feature author of the month, so I make chef of the month.
Oh,
That's
all
my
right.
first episode for that, and hoping it will be materialized. But today, Dr. Bilal will talk about what do doctors get wrong.
Yeah,
Interesting topic. You
absolutely.
spend your career building trust with patients, but you've been honest when you are training, they learn more from textbooks. From moment a patient taught you that you'd gotten something wrong.
Absolutely. I think there are a few lessons or a few things that both myself and my colleagues get wrong. One that immediately comes to mind is the system is incentivized to be efficient. We have five, or I personally at least have 5 to 15 minutes per patient visit.
Mhm.
And what I
Mhm.
learned very early on in my training, or was taught by a handful of patients, is that while it is important to document what happened during the visit, both for record keeping and so that all the other providers can see, if I'm click clacking away on a keyboard the entire time and looking like this at the patient and then at the computer, that's not a very human touch. The patient doesn't feel heard. They're wondering, are all the words that I'm saying even going in into what's between the left and the right ear, or is it all you know billing and coding and documentation? And so what I've done as a result is I don't use computers or bring a computer into patient visits. I either stand or sit and make eye contact. I talk to them like a person. And then I either keep it up here to dictate later or have a little recording device that I can turn on and then brain dump later when I have seen a few patients and I'm doing my paperwork. The patients want to be heard, just like anyone
Mhm.
else in any of those situation.
Eye contact, definitely. So, Mr. Bilal, what do you think? Something did you commit mistake in creating Lila?
Yeah, great question. I spent a lot of money at the beginning on things that I didn't need because I didn't know I didn't need them. This is my first startup company, so mistakes obviously happen. But to give you a very brief example, started at the beginning and had hired 5 employees. That was way
Mhm.
too many. Uh, they were, they were good at their job, but they had a lot of overlap in terms of skill set. So there was redundancy, and that needed to be scaled back. And from that batch of 5, only one remains. And he was able to do the vast majority of what the other 4 were doing, in addition to his kind of workflow. and has been rewarded accordingly and is now C-suite. He's our chief operating officer.
Certainly, they said, don't be afraid to commit mistake because you will learn from them. You will be better in
Absolutely.
the future. Doctors are trained to diagnose, but who trains them to truly listen, and what gets missed in the gap between hearing symptoms and hearing a human being?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, at least at my medical school, and I think most medical schools, there's a continuous kind of learning module where you simulate patient encounters and are taught all the right things. But to your point about the schooling itself being very textbook heavy, it's one thing to be told or to read that you need to deal with patients with empathy, you need to listen to them, and it's another thing to practice it. So when training starts and you're actually seeing patients at the same volume as the senior attending or the doctor who's basically guiding you through the training process, that empathy really depends on who is guiding you and what their personality is. Some people are warmer than others, and some people are, let's get this going, let's finish rounds in a quick manner. So I think something that gets missed, or maybe not, maybe missed is not the right word, but gets forgotten, is that in practice, there's a reason that Sherlock Holmes, the character, was based on a doctor or a physician of that time, because doctors are, at the end of the day, detectives. And what we were taught, I remember verbatim being told this, that 80% of the diagnosis lies in the history, meaning the information you get from speaking with the patient. I firmly believe that that's true. What ends up happening if you adopt the mindset of a guide through training who is a little too focused on efficiency is that you throw tests at people to try to get to the bottom of whatever is ailing them. And tests are useful and have their place, and we can't practice medicine without them, but they come at a cost, both financial, time. Patients have to take time out of their job and their family time to come and go through the test. And it's often unnecessary. You can get that same information by spending 2, 3 extra minutes with them.
Hmm. Interesting, Dr. Bilal. You've been recognized for teaching and patient care. Was there a specific patient who changed how you communicate? Who made you realize the words you're using were not landing the way you intended?
Yeah. So I'll give you two examples, one negative and one positive. That positive one I'm proud of because it's a direct reaction to the negative. But early in my training, I had learned all these new words, knew what they meant, and was using that medical jargon when I was talking to a patient. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was many years ago, but the patient was a mechanic. And so he listened very patiently to me. And at the end of it, he said, "Doc, I have no clue what you just said." I said, "If you brought your car over to me and I spoke to you this way, unless you happen to also be an expert in cars, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about." And he's absolutely right. That really kind of jibed with me, that when I go to a mechanic or anyone else offering a service, I expect them to use language that I will understand, not dumb it down and treat me as if I'm stupid, but use a common shared language. And so now, fast forward multiple years, something that I, am humbled by, that I get as a compliment, not infrequently, at least a few times a week, is, "Doc, you listen to me and you talk to me in a way that I can understand." And that's because of that feedback that I got not only from the mechanic, a few other patients, but early in my training. And I think a lot of people get that feedback, and some of them apply it, some of them don't. Uh, and my answer is always, I'm doing the bare minimum of my job, which is true.
Mm, definitely. And Dr. Bilal, as a co founder of Lila as well as a doctor, what is the big difference?
Between the entrepreneur
Being,
side,
yes, being an entrepreneur as well as a
yeah.
doctor.
Yeah, so it's been a perhaps a more difficult switch for me than somebody who's coming into entrepreneurship from another field. And what I mean by that is, I chose a space, the supplement space that is rife with uh, ambiguity, meaning that what's written on the label is not necessarily in the product. There have been multiple, I won't name companies, but multiple companies' products in the supplement space that have been tested and have found extremes like having none of the ingredient that is listed on the label, to another extreme of kind of gross slash safety where there's up to 10% rat feces as the composition of the supplement. So I took essentially what I've learned through my medical career, the Hippocratic Oath, for example, do things in an ethical way, in a transparent way, and have applied it to entrepreneurship and learning that it is more expensive, literally financially, to do things the right way, and the margins are lower, was a very rude awakening, and is something that I'm having to work around because the integrity and transparency is non-negotiable. That's I can't present myself as a trusted authority, being a physician who's also promoting a brand, and then be hypocritical. Or if I am, people will find out very quickly, especially in this day and age. So that's been a difficult kind of water to navigate, but there are ways around it. There are ways to do things ethically.
So, Dr. Bilal, in the future, if Lila will give you more greener pasture than being a doctor, would you give up being a doctor?
Absolutely not. I think at least once a week, once every 2 weeks. Uh, I love what I do, and I started it for a reason. And that's actually what I'm doing now. I'm focusing most of my time on Lila, but once to two times a week, I go and I see patients. It brings me joy, and it doesn't pad the pockets a lot. People don't go into medicine to make money. There are much easier ways to make money, but uh, I like it enough that I would continue to do it no matter how green the pasture is.
Certainly, passion and helping other people is your legacy for sure. If you could go back to your first year of medical school and give yourself a piece of advice about taking to patients, what would it be?
I think at the risk of repeating myself, I'd say treat them like a human, but I think on a more broader scope, what I would tell myself, which I learned too late from my own assessment, is no knowledge is wasted knowledge. What I mean by that is, everything from what's happening in current day affairs, from sports to politics to things like electronics. Basically, there's no topic that is a waste of time in terms of learning about. And that becomes applicable because I see multiple walks of life, multiple professions come through the door of the clinic. And when you're engaging with somebody, and the few minutes you have to make small talk, if you know a little bit about what they do and are able to hold an intelligent conversation, like water cooler talk, they take to you a lot more. And I think that doesn't just apply to patients and the relationship with with me. That applies to every walk of life. You go into an interview, for example. It's slight tangent, but I remember for interventional cardiology when I was applying for training. During one of my interviews, my now mentor and good friend, uh, I had a 30 to 45-minute interview with him, and all we spoke about, because this is the way the conversation was steered, was music. We talked about vinyl records, we talked about our favorite guitarists, and we talked nothing about cardiology or what my skills would be. And that's where I ended up landing for training. And I think that applies to patients. If they feel like you understand their passion or their hobby, you can engage in water cooler talk with them. They they like you a lot, and they tend to come back.
Hmm, certainly. You practice in a specialty where outcomes are not always guaranteed. How do you hold tension between doing everything medicine allows and knowing when medicine itself is not enough?
I don't do it very well. I'll tell you that. I had a case not too long ago, and I'll try to keep only relevant details in. But youngish guy in his 60s, large family, all sobbing in the emergency department waiting room. He came in with a heart attack, but was dead clinically, meaning he had no pulse. CPR was ongoing, took probably 25 minutes to get a pulse back. Took him to the cath lab, and at least 4 hours I spent on this gentleman. He lost a pulse more than 9 times during the case, despite me putting in a temporary heart pump, which is this large catheter that basically sits in the main pumping chamber and actually uses a motor to eject blood to the rest of the body forcibly when the heart's not working. And at about hour two, maybe hour three, my first assist kind of leans over and says, "What's the end game? And when are we going to stop?" And I couldn't. It's something I haven't learned to do. I had tunnel vision. I ended up putting him on what's called ECMO, or heart lung bypass, and shipping him to a larger center. And his heart survived, but unfortunately, he ended up passing about 2 weeks after that. Uh, I think I did right by him, and I feel confident and don't lose sleep over the fact that I literally gave it my all, and as did everybody else in that cath lab room during that case. But I wonder if I should have stopped at some point earlier. Uh, so it's hard. It's hard to navigate when you have somebody right in front of you and there's a job to be done. It's very easy to get tunnel vision and just hone in on the fact that I must fix this. But to your point, everyone passes at some point.
Well, interesting, Ms. Dr. Bilal. And what do patients understand about their own bodies that doctors are too quick to override? When should the doctor's expertise yield to a patient's lived experience?
I think when you have someone who has bounced around from doctor to doctor, including multiple specialties, with the same consistent symptoms, it's knee jerk and very easy to say that this person's symptoms are either in their head or they're doctor shopping, right? Uh, what I've found to be the case is that, yes, that is sometimes true, but more often than not, they have not received the attention that they deserve. And each subsequent doctor they go to tends to give them less time because they look at the old paperwork, they say nothing wrong in the workup, there's nothing wrong, therefore. And so that burden of original thinking gets less and less, and people kind of anchor on what the prior doctor or doctors have done. If you go with a fresh approach as if this person is seeing their first doctor for this issue, you're much more likely to at least know the right direction to go into to solve whatever is ailing them.
Very well said, Dr. Bilal. Beyond misdiagnosis or technical error, what's the most common mistake you see compassionate, well intentioned doctors make every day?
Yeah, so I think trusting the patient, and I'll clarify what that means.
Mhm.
So, giving patients a list of medications and trusting that they will adhere to that, or not linking them to a follow up physician by making that phone call and trusting that they will call the number on the discharge paperwork, is something that many busy, well intentioned doctors, myself included at times in the past, do, and I have done. Uh, what we fail to take into account is that there are a number of factors that prevent patients from doing that. Number one, they have lives. They have to go put food on the table, essentially work, make money, uh, and taking time out of their day to get that appointment or make that appointment is difficult, and so the barrier, it feels a little bit higher. So patients may put it off for months when it should be a days to weeks follow-up. So if you make a follow-up appointment for them kind of forcibly, it at least puts something on the schedule that they then have to negotiate with, that, oh, I have this doctor's appointment. It's a lot harder to cancel than it is to just not pick up a phone call or phone and make an appointment. And then with the medication list, if you hand somebody 5 new medications that they're now on after a hospitalization, without some sort of list or cheat sheet that this is what this medication's for, this is what this medication's for. They're gonna stare at that and say, really, I need to take all 5 of these medications? And doubt is a natural thing that comes into people's minds, and without the proper information, they may pick and choose, and they may pick and choose in the wrong order of priority of what medication they need out of those 5. So I think taking that extra step and not trusting that the patient necessarily will just follow orders is a mistake, and it's something that's well intentioned, that it's easy to fix.
So, Dr. Bilal, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Absolutely. I'll start with one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
East of Eden by John Steinbeck
Mm-hmm.
remains one of my favorites, if not my favorite book of all time. I can give you one more if you'd like, or two more.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is a wonderful work. So he and his research partner, who is now deceased, the late Amos Tversky, they together coined the term heuristics, or mental shortcuts, and they put names to many of the cognitive biases that medical students, psychology students, so on and so forth, that we learn in school. Uh, East of Eden is a beautiful book because it's a semi-fictional, multi-generational autobiography by John Steinbeck, but the real premise is kind of the two main characters are modeled after Cain and Abel, and the biblical Cain and Abel, and he flips the script and shows how someone who is too good or good to a fault may not be as good as someone who started off maybe gray, maybe towards the bad guy side, but then has a redemption arc. And that redemption arc is very meaningful because it teaches that person and often makes them better than the person who's always done the right thing and has never been challenged with temptation or the choice of, morally, should I do this or should I do that? I'll add a third book. My apologies. A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by Dave Eggers. It's also a semi-fictionalized autobiography. It's him and his younger brother. Both of his parents died of cancer, kind of within short times of each other. He was young. His younger brother was young, and it's a very morbidly funny take on how he coped with that and how he moved past that and the challenges that came with it. All 3 of those are wonderful, and they're staples that I've read multiple times.
Thank you for the recommended books, Dr. Bilal. And lastly, can you talk about your product, Lila?
Absolutely. So most people have probably heard of prebiotics and or probiotics. I'll break it down kind of as simply as I can. This includes all 3 biotics. It's called Biotics Cubed for that reason. Prebiotics, which is just fiber or food for the bacteria. Probiotics, which is bacteria. And then postbiotics, which are chemicals the bacteria make after they eat the fiber. Those chemicals do the health action you're looking for. So this combination of the 3 biotics, or Biotics Cubed by Lila Health, is specifically formulated by yours truly to address cardiovascular risk factors, specifically high LDL, or bad cholesterol, that tends to clog arteries and lead to heart attacks. Also addresses GI symptoms or digestive symptoms, so it's heart and gut health. It's a stick pack and flavored with real chansa mangoes from Pakistan, not artificially. And you can mix it with yogurt, milk. Not as good in water, in my humble opinion. Yogurt's the best. But once a day, 3 months, check your lipid panel before and after, and you'll see the results.
Indeed, what astonishing result. So, Dr. Bilal, can you please invite our listeners to support your product, your anything, your projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So the website is lilahealth.com, Lylah health.com. feel free to take a look at the blog posts. Those are written by yours truly, no AI assistance, no ghostwriter, and all the claims are hyperlinked to the direct study, so you can read exactly what you want to know or as much as you want to know. All the papers that were used to formulate this are also in the chat pod that you find on the Explore the Science page or in the bottom right of the shared screen, that plus sign. You can ask it any question ranging from, is this bullshit, to how does it work, to whatever you want. And then feel free to find me on LinkedIn or Facebook and send me a message. I answer anything and everything related to the product, related to cardiology, or you just want to talk.
Yes, people like support Dr. Bilal because for sure if you support him more and more, empowering Layla will rise. So Dr.
Demand
Bilal,
more from your supplements. That is the goal.
yes. Who knows, it will become more vitamins, minerals, and lots more. So Dr. Bilal, thank you so much for your time.
Likewise, thanks for having me again.
Monica people, see you soon.